So what do I want? All right. And this is something I think it's really difficult to put into words because it's so easy to oppose things, so easy to attack things. But what I want is freedom. I want to be left alone. But I want freedom for a specific purpose. Okay, so freedom means certain things have to happen. It means the government has to protect me from other people, has to protect me from those who would restrain me, who would attack me, who would hurt me, who would steal from me, who would steal my property. And at the same time, government has to not do those things itself. It has to not come into my land and tell me I can't prune my trees. It has to not tell me I can't, wash my hands because my sink has been declared a public waterway. It has to stay as far away from me as it can without allowing me to hurt other people. Okay, so that's important. But it also means something else. It means that people have to be trained to respect freedom and the mechanisms that maintain freedom. And that is what I feel has gone away from the world. And that's why I hammer so much on the narrative, on the left-wing press, on the left-wing academy, on left-wing Hollywood, on all the things that are telling our stories. In Plato's Republic, he famously says, Socrates is talking about how you form the perfect republic. And he famously says, the guardians have to be trained. And when they're children, one of the things you have to do is train them by telling them good stories that teach them good lessons. That's how you train children, by telling them stories with good morals. And he then proceeds to ban from the perfect republic some of the greatest writers of all time, including Homer and all the poets, basically saying that all the imaginative things that these people bring to the world are not right because they're showing the gods as human. They're showing the gods having fights. The children should not be taught that gods are imperfect. They should only be taught that gods do what's right. I feel really differently about this. I feel that I want people to be trained in freedom, and in order to be trained in freedom, they have to hear that great men and great women too have stood on either side and have made different arguments and have told all kinds of stories. Now, obviously, what you tell children are the simplest stories and the simplest ideas, but you have to understand that good people disagree. And this is the thing that I think is so offensively draining out of our society. The idea that somebody on the opposite side from me might possibly be as decent a human being as I am. Now, okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there is no one who's as decent as human being as I am. Fair enough. But I think that they might be almost as decent a human being as I am. And this whole thing on the left of dividing people into their colors, dividing people into what they look like, has become censorious and absurd. Recently, a comedian, Hari Kondabolu, his name is making a documentary about how much he hates the character Apu on The Simpsons. He runs the deli, right? He's like the Indian guy who runs the deli. Let's take here's a brief look at a promo for this documentary.
I hate Apu. And because of that, I dislike The Simpsons.
The whole series.
Yeah.
I love The Simpsons because
you hate yourself.
My name is Hari Kondabolu. I've had a great career filled with laughter, critical acclaim. I should be completely happy. But there's still one man who haunts me. Apu Nahasapima Pedalon.
Please pay for your purchases and get out and come again.
How many of you had to deal with being called Apu or that being referenced?
The Simpsons, stereotypes, all races. The problem is we didn't have any other representation. Cabby, deli, deli. Doctor.
You know that a white guy does the voice?
A white guy doing an impression of a white guy making fun of my father.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm making a movie about how much I dislike it.
Right away, they were like, can you do an Indian voice and how offensive can you make it? I would immediately begun to talk this way. I was like, it's not tremendously accurate. It's a little stereotype. Like, that's all right.
So that's Hank Azaria who does the voice. Hank Azaria, let me tell you something about Hank Azaria, okay? My father was one of the best voice men in the business. He did some of the best voices I have ever heard. And my father could walk seriously, in Italy, he could walk into a store and do double talk Italian that meant absolutely nothing, and make the people think that they understood what he was saying. He was one of the most amazing voice talents who ever lived. When I first heard Hank Azaria, I thought, that this guy is one of the greatest voice people ever. And in fact, when I was on set once doing a meeting, they told me that he was in his trailer, and I said, I would love to meet Hank Azaria, because I just wanted to tell him that he was one of the great voice men ever. And I was so overwhelmed because I admired his talent so much that I actually kind of fumbled the ball and didn't actually say what I told him that I was a fan, but I didn't tell him what I wanted to tell him. But anyway, Azaria is a terrific voice talent. The idea that he should not be allowed to do the voice of other people from other cultures is absolute madness. It is absolute madness. The idea that he should not be able to use his talent to make fun of Indian people or Jewish people or black people or white people or everybody, all kinds of people, is just absurd. And it's this kind of censorious idea it is Plato's Republic. It is this fascist idea that you are going to train our minds in the ways you want us to think. And the ways they want us to think are racist and sexist. The ways they want us to think are to divide each other according to our races and sexes and say, oh yeah, I can make fun of white people. I can make fun of dumb blondes, but no, you can't make fun of an Indian deli owner. That is absolutely absurd. The Simpsons, to their credit, well, sort of to their credit, actually responded to the documentary. And we're going to talk to Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin is going to be here in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk to him about this too, because he, of course, has suffered as much censorship as just about anybody. But they had this scene where the mom in The Simpsons sits down. What's her name? Do you remember her name? Marge, right. Yeah, very good. Marge. That's cartoon characters for 50 art. We have Marge sits down to read a story, but she's had to edit the fairy story to make it politically correct.
Okay, here's a new version of The Princess in the Garden.
Mom, you're exhausted.
But it takes a lot of work to take the spirit and character out of a book. But now it's as inoffensive as a Sunday in Cincinnati. Once there was a cisgender girl named Clara. She lived in South America, fighting for wild horse rescue and net neutrality.
This new Clara sounds like she starts out pretty perfect.
You betcha.
But since she's already evolved, she doesn't really have an emotional journey to complete.
Nope.
Kinda means there's no point to the book.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
It's hard to say. Something that started decades ago and was applauded and inoffensive is now politically incorrect. What can you do?
Some things will be dealt with at a later date.
If at all.
So this was a kind of a way of saying buzz off in a way. I hope it was, but it also kind of accepted the premises of what the guy is saying. And I don't accept those premises at all. I want a country in which everybody has a voice. Everybody can say whatever they want. Would I like the conversation to be more civil? Yes, but should people be able to make any joke they want, make any point they want? Absolutely. And that, to me, is defending freedom. It defends freedom when we listen to one another civilly. It defends freedom when people are not silenced. And I think the thing that has bothered me most of all in these last 20 years has been the silencing of dissident voices. And I do not think that Plato, I think that Plato is wrong that in order to teach us how to be free, we have to only tell stories that we approve of. I think we only have to tell stories that demonstrate how free we are, that we can tell almost any story and get along and talk about it and debate it and not silence it. All right, so here's my question for you. 3 sentences, no more than that. Do not send me a book because I want to actually read your responses. Send me 3 sentences. What do you want? Not what do you oppose, but what do you want? Do you want, more legal restrictions on gay people, or do you just not want them to be recognized by the church, or do you just not want them to be on TV, or what? Do you want less government? And when you say less government, is there some way that you're receiving government funds that you are willing to get rid of in order to have there be less government? Do you want to go back to a world in which we can make racial jokes? I do. I'm happy to make racial jokes. I'm happy to make sexist jokes. I think they're funny. I think they dispel hostility. I think they remind us that we're all kind of silly and stupid. I think that it's just amazing to me that, we have to listen to feminists tell us that women are as rational as men in those high, screechy, crazy voices with their eyeballs swirling around, so that you have to say, okay, while you quietly back away. You know, I mean, I want to be able to make whatever jokes I want. You know, what is it? If you had to pick three things that are positive things that you want for America, you know, what I want is to be left alone. What I want is the culture schooled in what it means to be left alone and why we do the things the way we do. And I want a free and open culture where everybody is represented, not just the left in TV, not just the left in Academy, not just the left in Hollywood. I want everybody represented speaking their mind. So that's what I want. What do you want?